Hello, my name is Sentana-Ries. This is part 3 of articles I wrote 17 years ago which I now place under the heading No Banker in Our Paradise. Today is the second day of December 2016. For nearly 20 years since the inception of the Internet I have identified myself as being authoritative to the issue of finance, and state emphatically that the current financial system must not be reformed, but must be abolished, and this for the purpose of freeing the people from the yoke to a system which does not work in the people's interests, as it only makes a minority rich which controls its process. My position on this issue I make by the authority of an office I hold, which is recognized by all high councils of this universe. And yet that office is no threat to anyone. It only deals with the issue of restoring a paradise to all people that was lost many thousands of years ago. Therefore no listener of my words should become offended or threatened from an implementation of the thoughts I put forth by the words I spoke 17 years ago, as they focus on one thing only, and that is to give back to the people their paradise, which was lost eons ago, consisting of an environment conducive to the people's bliss, a surrounding, which I have called in my writings a paradise, even though it merely is one at the lowest level of what we can call paradise. The essays which follow were all posted in discussion forums of Arabia.com and Baladna.com and were also placed on our own websites at the turn of the century. We offer these audio files as a free gift under the Creative Fair Use copyright rules. The text in spoken words may therefore be freely copied, distributed, and stored in any electronic format, provided no text is altered, and the author's name is not disconnected from quotations of any length. All commercial copyrights are reserved by the publisher. And now we shall continue with the articles I posted on the 16th of May in 1999, their title I have slightly modified, now calling it, The IMF and World Bank International Financiers Are Sorely Mistaken. I also have on occasion modified the wording to improve on the style of the text presented here. Quote. Headline. Debt repayment. A mathematical impossibility. Part 1. Under the present financial system, the charging of interest on borrowed money can be likened to a barrel of water which is to be kept full at all times, the fullness of the barrel representing a healthy economy with adequate amounts of money in circulation to meet everyone's needs. This barrel, representative of the economy, has a supply line at the top, which represents the infusion of brand new currency or capital through public debt acquisition, and a drain line at the bottom, representing the repayment of debts with interest charges. If the currency controllers were conscientious men who are seeking the best interests of people of the nation, then they would always assure the availability of correct amounts of money available for the supply of everyone's basic needs. And here an oversupply of funds would mean a dislodging of economic balance to create price gouging and profiteering, and an undersupply of funds would generate recessions, unemployment, depression, and starvation in the midst of an abundance of material availability, a phenomenon which is also called stagflation. This word is made up of stagnation, because not enough money goes around to meet the people's needs, and inflation, because production costs cannot be curtailed when whose costs invariably include rising taxes and escalating interest charges on corporate and consumer loans. Now, a closed economy with a constant number of workers or businessmen, say 100,000 in number, would in this case have 100,000 individuals available to go into debt against the money lenders in order to create sufficient funds in circulation to assure a healthily balanced economy for a while. The supply line has been opened for the barrel to be filled. Everyone works, makes money and spends it back into circulation to supply his or her basic needs. Debts are being repaid successfully, because not all have gone into debt at the same time. For 10 years this closed economy has worked well and created much prosperity, for the money lenders noticed that the amounts of debts and interest paid on loans were equal to the amounts of capital infused through new debt acquisition. At last, after the lapse of 10 years, there were no more people left to go into debt to the money lenders, for everyone who had gone into debt to the credit creator was found in desperate attempts to snatch up from money in circulation whatever he or she could to firstly meet his financial obligation to the lender, lest his property be confiscated. As time went by, money became a commodity in short supply, as people scrambled to pay the banker not only what in funds they owed dollar for dollar, but also the interest on their debts. Now, interest could not be paid in the form of labor, or food, or houses to the banker, rather the banker demanded money as the only legitimate form of payment, something the people should have known they could not do, since the banker never saw it needful to introduce the interest in the form of currency along with the capital into circulation. And as a consequence the barrel of the economy became drained of its cash, and no more new capital would be infused, as there were no more people left to go into debt to in order to provide a guarantee for continued supply of capital. Of course, eventually our sample community of 100,000 potential debtors collapsed. They all had neglected to check the banker's mathematics, and therefore failed to discover his trick to cheat them out of life and limb. And so in the end it was the currency creator, who became the legal owner of the assets of the people, and the people starved for want of food. Rennie Sentana-Ries, posted on the 16th of May 1999, at 5:58 a.m., in Jordan. We will carry on. Here is part 2 under the headline of Debt Repayment, a Mathematical Impossibility. Interest on any debt can never be paid by the public, because the credit creators never create that cost factor to the acquisition of a debt into circulation. Wake up, people of this once mighty nation. Wake up, people of the world. Your properties are legally falling into the hands of the money creators, because you are not the one who creates money to pay them the interest on your debts. Debt repayment is a mathematical impossibility. The sooner you will discover this most desperately guarded secret of the international financiers, the greater your chance will be to finally throw their yoke off your necks and stop the plunder of your nation by stripping them of the power of their iniquity, usury. In our little example, the drain at the bottom of the barrel was greater than the amount of water piped in at the top. When finally the barrel became empty, the economy collapsed and the banker was the only one left to claim for himself the greatest profit ever in the form of harvesting the people's assets upon their financial demise. In conclusion of this topic, hear what the credit manager of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, Mr. Robert H. Hemphill, had to say. Quote, "If all bank loans were paid, no one would have a bank deposit, and there would not be a dollar of currency or coin in circulation. This is a staggering thought. We are completely dependent on the commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every dollar we have in circulation, cash or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we are prosperous; if not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent monetary system." When one gets a complete grasp upon the picture, the tragic absurdity of our hopeless position is almost incredible, but there it is. The banking system is the most important subject intelligent persons can investigate and reflect upon. It is so important that our present civilization may collapse, unless it is widely understood and the defects remedied very soon. End quote from Mr. Robert H. Hemphill. And Dr. Martin Luther, who lived between 1483 and 1546, said, "Little thieves are put in the stocks, great thieves go flaunting in gold and silk. Therefore is there on this earth no greater enemy of man than a gripe money, an usurer, for he wants to be God over all men. But the usurer and money glutton, such a one would have the whole world perish of hunger and thirst, misery and want, so far as in him lies, so that he may have all to himself, and everyone may receive from him as from a god, and be his serf forever." End of quote from Martin Luther. Posted on The 16th of May, 1999, 6:03 a.m., Jordan. End of part 3. To be continued in part 4, where the topic of discussion will be to find the answer as to just who this magnificent creditor is. Happy listen.